describing Srimati Radharani in different phases of her appearance, and then this morning we discussed her childhood pastimes, and this evening the focus is going to some of Radharani's merciful pastimes. And Radharani is extremely merciful. Radharani is extremely merciful. If you can get Radharani's mercy, you're in good shape. She's extremely merciful. We're going to hear a few of Radharani's merciful pastimes, starting with a very celebrated pastime. Radharani delivering a jackal. You ever seen a jackal? You have some people that you know are jackal-like, huh? Anyone here has been to Mayapur? And have you noticed anything about jackals in Mayapur? Next time you go to Mayapur, after the sun sets, listen, there's a jackal concert every night. They hide during the day, but it's something like peacocks. Have you heard a peacock concert before? In Gitanagari, way back when they didn't have laws that prevented people from bringing wild animals or animals from some other countries into our country, they brought a male and a female peacock to Gitanagari. Guess what? The whole of Juniata County is now filled with peacocks. And when peacocks, I don't know if it's seasonal or it's regular or whatever it is, but the way that it works from my experience in Gitanagari, what to speak of Vrindavan, when one peacock does what peacocks makes the peacock sound, then there's a chorus. The other peacocks respond in chorus. And then it's quiet for a little while. And then there's a lead peacock that says something. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And then the others make their peacock sound. And it goes on for about a half a minute or more. And then it's quiet for... So like peacocks do like this. So I don't know if the people in Juniata County, which is the county where Gitanagari is, if they know how peacocks came into that county, but we know. Gitanagari. They're all over the place. Similarly, in Mayapur, there's jackals. And they have a concert every night. They're really loud. If you have insomnia, you won't be able to sleep. If you live in New York, you can easily sleep. Another Gitanagari story. There was a place very near Tuscarora Creek that was a place where it was a little cabin that was there since, when they purchased the property. They didn't build it, it was already there. A little cabin by the side of the creek. When Satsrup Maharaj stayed there for a number of years, it became known as Satsrup Maharaj's cabin. And then after he left Gitanagari and went to other places, it's a place where they had guests stay. Now, it's where the president and his wife stay. Dhruva and Parijata from South Africa stay there. But it was right near, behind, behind is the creek, and in front is a pond. And in the pond, there's bullfrogs. I couldn't sleep. The street noise in New York, I could sleep through, no problem. But the bullfrogs, I couldn't sleep. I had to get another place to stay. It was too much. So, jackals make a really loud sound, but they're also very private. So they hide. It's hard to get a picture, but there are. I'm going to show you some pictures. And in Vrindavan, there was a jackal. So here's Radharani delivering the jackal. Beautiful description. There's a nice image of beautiful Vrindavan. It's mainly, this image is cowherd boys, the gopas, climbing trees and swimming, and there's the cows and having cowherd boy fun. And sometimes there's gopis too. One day, Radharani and her Sakis were having a joyful time together near Suryakund. We're going to hear, before I leave here, something more about Suryakund. What's special about Suryakund? Who knows what's special about Suryakund and Radharani? Who would like to say? I see one hand. I see two hands. Her hand was up first. Can you project your voice loudly? Here comes back the mic. And if she misses something, you can add.
Maharaj, I think this is where Radharani used...
Speak slowly and clearly. Thank you.
This is where Radharani used to go to worship the sun god.
How often did she go?
I'm not sure.
Daily.
Yes.
She worshipped the sun god daily at Suryakund. What else?
There was a pastime that occurred there also.
How many pastimes?
Yes.
You'll hear some. But so what's special about Suryakund is it's a place, she, Radharani, worshipped the sun god, Suryadev, at Suryakund. We're going to hear some more. Why? You have something you want to add?
Very few points.
Okay. A few points are nice.
So, Radharani's mother-in-law, they worship the sun god because for material opulence, and that's of course
Jatila was her mother-in-law.
Yeah, Jatila,
she worshipped sun god for material opulence,
and she used to take along with the daughter-in-law, and as she goes daily, that's where Krishna finds the right
many
time
pastimes.
to meet
Many
Radharani.
pastimes. Many pastimes.
And one of our acharyas, I think
Jaghannatha
Das
Babaji Maharaj.
he resided in Suryakund by contemplating on the pastimes happened near the Suryakund.
Okay. We'll hear more about that before I go. So she was one day of many days, she was together with her friends, the other gopis, and they were going here and there, having little girl pastimes together. One day, a jackal came near Suryakund. See that guy in the bottom right? That's a jackal. And that's just a pastoral scene somewhere, but jackal came. Jackals can be very dangerous. They're besides they're unclean, they can be very vicious. But the cowherd boys, they weren't afraid of the vicious jackal. They started chasing him. And the jackal was running, and they were running after the jackal, and he began running for his life. He kept running, and eventually, as they were chasing him, he entered into a hole in the ground. So the boys gathered around the hole in the ground and started saying bad names down the hole in the ground, calling the jackal bad names and sticking sticks. And then they decided to build a fire around the hole in the ground. And the jackal was in great pain and very afraid. making a loud sound. So the gopis and Radharani, they heard the crying of the jackal. So Radharani requested Lalita to find out, what's that sound? It sounds like someone's in great distress. So Lalita followed the sound. She found the boys. She saw the fire around the hole in the ground. And she admonished the boys very severely. Lalita can be pretty heavy. She didn't just shake her finger. She let them have it. And they scattered. She put out the fire. She reached down the hole and coaxed the jackal to come out of the hole and brought the jackal before Srimati Radharani. And when the jackal came to Srimati Radharani, she's so kind and so soft and so benevolent. She delivered the jackal. What did Radharani, the jackal, seeing and feeling and experiencing the kindness of Radharani, with tears of gratitude, he fell at the feet of Srimati Radharani and surrendered to Radharani. And Radharani picked him up and said, "There shall be no more suffering for you from today. I will allow you into my pastimes as one of my gopis." Celebrated pastime, celebrated pastime. She's even merciful to a jackal. So some of us are maybe lower than jackals, but Radharani is very merciful, very, very merciful. And that was one place, and there's another place where the same pastime is narrated. May you, if you haven't already been to Vrindavan, now that pandemic is over, sometime you may be able to go to Vrindavan, and the sooner the better. Kartik is coming. And if not this year, then next year. If not next year, then the year after, and sometime go to Vrindavan. And when you go to Vrindavan, I'm sure you'll go to Govardhan Hill. And don't just ride around Govardhan Hill in a taxi. Some people do that. But go do Govardhan Parikrama. And ideal is to go with devotees that know the places at Govardhan. And one of those places at Govardhan is Radhakund, at the northern end, because Govardhan runs north and south, pretty much. And at the very northern portion of Govardhan Hill is Radhakund Shamakund. And these two, Radhakund Shamakund, are said to be like the eyes of the peacock, because Govardhan is shaped like the head is up here, then a long neck, and then the torso, which is around Manasi Ganga. We're going to hear something about Manasi Ganga today. And then the long tail, Punch. And the bottom is called Punch, the southern tip of Govardhan. So if you go back up to the north, that's where this image is. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but that's what's on the screen. And if you notice, on the upper left-hand corner of this slide, it says Shiva Pushkarani. And there's a little arrow. I can see it on my computer screen very easily, but maybe you can't. But it's a little arrow that goes to number 24, which is Shiva Pushkarani. Shiva Pushkarani is this place. There's a Pushkarani, a Pushkar, a little kund, and it's also called Shiva Kora. So in the back of this, the body of water is in the front. In the back is a deity of Lord Shiva, Rameshwara Mahadev, who is said to be one of the protectors of the Dham, the whole of Vrindavan, in the northern part. Kshetrapal, protector of the Dham. Rameshwara Mahadev, he protects the northern part of Radhakund, sometimes called Shivakora, which also means a holy place. And Pushkarani means a lake. So this is described, this place is described in Padma Purana. And in Padma Purana, it gives a very similar description. One day, there was a jackal. And the jackal, look at this guy. The jackal was seen by the cowherd boys, gopas. And, little boys are sometimes playful and sometimes not so kind, even when they're playing. So they chased the jackal, and the jackal ran down a hole. Same pastime, but at a different location. And of course, there's embellishments in Shivaram Maharaj's book, but this is a drawing that comes from his book, where Radharani is holding the jackal and is gifting. Not only there'll be no more anxiety for you in this lifetime, but I will accept you in your next lifetime amongst my gopis. Just for taking shelter. Now, Lalita had her role to play, but Radharani was behind it. Go find out what that sound is. She admonished the boys, put out the fire, coaxed the petrified jackal out of the hole, carried the jackal in her arms to Radharani, and feeling so relieved from that harassment of the boys, he just surrendered to Radharani, even in a jackal body. Even in a jackal body. So Radharani is very merciful. You probably won't go to that place, Shiva Pushkarani. But when you go to Radhakund and Shamakund, you can remember. Over that way in the north side, there's this place where Radharani showed her mercy to a jackal. I like the pastime. It's a nice pastime. So this is Radha's merciful pastimes. Here's an example where Radharani gives her mercy to Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, is there anybody new here that needs a little introduction to who is Raghunath Das Goswami, or who are the 6 Goswamis, or everybody is up to speed with at least that much? Okay, good. So there they are, the 6 Goswamis. Raghunath and Gopal Bhatta Goswami were among the youngest. Of course, Jiva Goswami also, quite young. And the 3 elders, Raghunath, Bhatta Goswami, of course, Sanatana, Jiva, and Rupa Goswami. So Raghunath, what's he known for? He's known for many things, but one of the things he's known for is incredibly intense renunciation. Especially known is for his eating next to nothing. Prabhupada described this in a class, recorded class in Montreal once. When he was living in Vrindavan, aside from what happened before he went to Vrindavan, when he was living in Vrindavan, for his edibles, he would eat once every other day, and he would take a palmful of chas, which is buttermilk, every other day. Now, what would happen for any of us if we tried that? We would die. We wouldn't be able to sustain our lives. So Prabhupada explained in this class in Montreal, he was very thin. His whole body was trembling because he was so thin. But he was being sustained by spiritual energy. Spiritual strength sustained his life. Not eating. He ate something. So something else that he should be known for is his intense, I'll say it 3 times, intense attachment for Radharani. Intense attachment for Radharani. One time, one of his followers, or maybe disciples, Haridas, brought him a very large leaf cup. It's a nice pastime, celebrated pastime, of buttermilk. And Raghunatha accepted. And as he was drinking the buttermilk, he asked, "Where'd you get these large leaves? I've never seen leaves this large before." And as soon as he said where he got the leaves from the place where Chandravali and her gopi group would stay. Chandravali and her gopi group stayed at a place that was midway on the western side of Govardhan Hill. And there was a particular tree that produced particularly large leaves. And he took leaves from that tree, from Chandravali's place, and made a large leaf cup. Immediately, Raghunatha Das threw it down. Said, "Don't ever go there again." Ooh. He was in Radharani's camp for sure. And during the Memorial Day weekend, many of you probably did some wonderful things, like going to Sadhu Sangha retreat and some other nice things. I was in Potomac Temple, along with Mahatma Prabhu, and the part that I did was I gave a seminar on Manashiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. So he's not known for being a big writer. Others are well known. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, prolific. I just read, Rupa Goswami wrote in Sanskrit 100,000 verses. Jiva Goswami wrote in Sanskrit 400,000 verses. 400,000 verses. Huh. Raghunath wrote not many. This Manashiksha is 11 verses. But it's really packed, and to unpack it is really joyful. And the last, it's something very similar to Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Instruction. In Nectar of Instruction, you've read it, starting with verse 8, 9, 10, and 11. You have to get your, not just binoculars, you have to get a telescope. It's really high, really high. Following Rupa Goswami, who Raghunath Das loved very much, the final 4 verses of Raghunath Das Goswami's Manashiksha are really high, and it's Radharani, 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 and Radharani. He's very, very devoted to Radharani. So this keeping that in mind, this pastime of Radharani reciprocating and showing mercy to Raghunath Das make complete sense, because he was so devoted to her. One day, you know, in Texas, I'm sure in the summertime it gets pretty hot. Yeah, pretty hot. In Vrindavan it gets hotter than hot. Hotter than hot. So in the midday sun, Raghunath Das was so absorbed in chanting, as this painting shows, that his body was baking in the sun, midday sun. So Radharani came and held her upper garment to shield Raghunath Das so he wouldn't be baked in the sun. Now if you look very closely, the painting shows, maybe it's not in this one, there's another one. It shows Radharani is perspiring, and there's a little like a pile, a little trickle of water going into the, it's Radhakund, he's by the side of Radhakund. And she's shading him from the heat of the sun. And until the heat of the midday sun went, and then she withdrew her upper garment, and she went away. And if you see in the painting in the upper left, that's Sanatana Goswami, you saw the whole thing. Now this is 2 pastimes in one. On the other one, at different times, but there's 2 tigers and they came to drink water from Radhakund. He was so absorbed in drinking water through his chanting, he didn't even notice either the baking sun or the 2 tigers. He was just so absorbed. So absorbed. Do you ever get distracted when chanting? Say it the other way. Do you sometimes concentrate when chanting? He wasn't just concentrating. He was absorbed. He was absorbed. He was absorbed. Profoundly absorbed. In this Manashiksha, I'm just going back to another point. In verse number 11 of the 11 verses of Manashiksha, he describes becoming absorbed in meditation, worship, remembrance, and meditation upon Srimati Radharani. Those of you that like to read Prabhupada's books, and those of you that have taught or studied Bhakti Shastri, text number 8 of Nectar of Instruction has 2 paragraphs that expand on what Raghunath Das Goswami says at the end of Manashiksha. There's a nice short paragraph that describes 5 stages of meditation up to the stage of you receive a spiritual body. And in that spiritual body, you worship and serve Krishna while you're in your physical body. Say it backwards. It's in Rupa Goswami's teachings in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that says in these elevated stages, in the sadhana stage, you serve the Lord with your senses. And internally, within the mind, you serve the Lord in your spiritual form. So now where do you get a spiritual form? So read that verse, read the section, if I invite you, from Nectar of Instruction, text number 8, 5 stages of meditation. And in the mature stage of meditation, mantra meditation and Krishna meditation, there's the external and there's the internal. And the internal goes deeper and deeper and deeper. It's pretty amazing. And Raghunath Das was at that stage. While he was at that stage, he was oblivious to his body baking. Radharani was noticing her dear beloved devotee, Raghunath Das. And so she showed her mercy. Here's some other drawings. There's other paintings of the same pastime. Now, where did Raghunath Das make his residence? He made his residence by the side of Radhakund. And it's his Bhajan Kutir place. One of his Bhajan Kutir places, just put it down here. Just put it down. You're very indiscreet. Okay, thanks a lot, Prabhu. Okay, Krishna Krishna. So that's the back side of Radhakund, and as you're looking at the scene here, Radhakund is in the foreground. The place where Raghunath Das made one of his Bhajan Kutir places, his samadhi is pictured on the right side. Now some of you have been to Radhakund. Yes? How many have been to Radhakund? Oh, a lot of you. Okay, good. On one side of Radhakund there's the temple of Gopinath, and the same hall that's the temple of Gopinath is his samadhi. And from the time, he was such a personality that when he left his body, they placed his body in samadhi, and they began 24-hour kirtan, which has continued since his departure. In fact, the inspiration for Ainder Prabhu's 24-hour kirtan was Raghunath Das Goswami's 24-hour kirtan. And they had maintained it for so many years. And Mayas Khan also maintained for many years. So Radharani showed her mercy to Raghunath Das Goswami, and many other nice things to say about Raghunath. Radharani showed her mercy to Rupa Goswami. She fulfilled the desire of Rupa Goswami in many ways, but one of those ways is this celebrated one. You've probably seen this drawing before. There's Rupa Goswami seated beneath a kadamba tree. Here's the older version from which the ISKCON version was made. They resemble each other very closely. And the kadamba tree under which Raghunath Das sat is believed to be in the Ter Kadamba region. Yes? Ter Kadamba? Any bells ringing? Ter Kadamba. Ter Kadamba is close to midway between where Nanda Maharaj's Nandagram, it's up on a hill, and going in the direction where Radharani's home was in Yavat. So it's in between. It was a meeting place. It was had many functions. Meeting place for Radha and Krishna. It had many functions. Krishna would sometimes climb the kadamba tree at the end of the herding of the calves and cows. He'd go to the top branches of a kadamba tree and play upon his flute, calling the names of the groups of Nanda Maharaj's cows. There's a very detailed description of that. Attend a yatra by Dinabandhu and he'll tell you all the names of all the cows and the calves and how Krishna would make the sound from his flute, the calling of the cows by name. And they would wait to hear, and their ears would perk up, and So this Kadamba Grove was very special, very dear to Krishna. And so it's a place where Rupa Goswami made a bhajan kutir. Principally, it is said he did the writing of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu here. So one day he's writing and writing and writing, as we see in this painting. And it happened to be the birthday of his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami. You know the pastime, right? You don't know the pastime? Nice pastime. We're looking at the screen over here, so. Thank you. He was thinking as he was writing, it would be really nice to make a nice offering to my brother on his birthday. He's a sadhu, he doesn't have anything. What's he going to offer to his brother who doesn't need anything? But he was thinking like that. Some time passed. Down the path came a young girl. And the young girl said, today there was a big wedding, and some of the ladies at the wedding sent me to you. Here's some ingredients. We know that it's your brother's birthday. You'd probably like to make some offering for your brother. And so here's some milk, sugar, rice, ghee, camphor, and saffron. You can make some nice sweet rice for your brother. Very nice, thank you. Krishna's mercy. And so he took some time, made some nice sweet rice, and went to go visit his brother. During this particular time, Sanatana Goswami was keeping his bhajan kutir at Pavan Sarovar. Where's Pavan Sarovar? Here's Yavat, here's Nandagram, here's Ter Kadamba in between Yavat and Nandagram, and Pavan Sarovar is over here. Pavan Sarovar, Sarovar means lake, and Pavan Sarovar is the place where Krishna and Nanda Maharaj would go every day to take their morning bath, while Radha Rani is up on the hill preparing Krishna's breakfast. And so Sanatana Goswami at that time, even today, but even more so at that time, it was kind of jungly, it was, quiet. And so he made a little bhajan kutir at that place. So Rupa Goswami went to Sanatana Goswami's bhajan kutir by the side of Pavan Sarovar. And he said, here's a gift for you, it's your birthday. Here's some nice sweet rice offered to Krishna. So his brother accepted. And as he began tasting the sweet rice, he was feeling ecstasy. What's this? I've never tasted ingredients like this. Where did you get these ingredients? And he said, oh, a young girl came and said that there was a wedding in the area, and the elder gopis wanted these ingredients to be provided for you so I could make an offering. He said, wait a minute. I know all the people in all the villages around here, and there was no wedding. Can you tell me something what this little girl looked like? And as he described the little girl, he was, oh no, that was Srimati Radharani. We're meant for serving Radharani, and you're engaging me in taking service from Srimati Radharani. How terrible. But the sweet rice is so good. And they offered some to Rupa, and they had a sweet rice feast. Compliments of Srimati Radharani, because she reciprocates with her devotees. The devotees make their life and soul Srimati Radharani because she is the place of Krishna's happiness. She is the manifestation of Krishna's happiness. So they're deeply devoted to Srimati Radharani, and she reciprocates. As with Raghunatha, so also with Rupa Goswami. Here's a nice photograph of our dear Dinabandhu Prabhu with his nice walking cane. And in the background, it looks different than it did years ago, but it's a gate in the front part of Sanatana Goswami's Bhajan Kutir at Pavan Sarovar. And you go through the gate, and here's what you see on the other side of the gate. You see the two domes, left and right. We're going to see the backside of those domes shortly. Those two domes, one is the Bhajan Kutir place of Raghunatha, of Sanatana Goswami, and next to him is the Bhajan Kutir place of one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's very beloved devotees, who was very dear to Srila Prabhupada, who chanted all day long, every day. Huh? No, not his guru. Akinchan Das Babaji has his samadhi right next to Sanatana Goswami's samadhi. So here's a photograph of that samadhi, or it's not samadhi, Bhajan Kutir. But I should not samadhi, Bhajan Kutir. There's our Dinabandhu paying obeisances before his Bhajan Kutir. Now, again, it doesn't look like this years ago, but that's what it looked like even, who knows, some years ago. And here's the inside, the Bhajan Kutir of Sanatana Goswami. The Bhajan Kutir of Sanatana Goswami is on the backside of Pavan Sarovar. See those spires? The red spires towards the right center? That's the Bhajan Kutir place of Sanatana Goswami and Krishnadas Babaji. It's well maintained. I mean, everything in Vrindavan is not always so well maintained like this, but it's very well maintained. And here's a little background on why Sanatana Goswami went, of all places, to Pavan Sarovar, besides it was secluded. It's the place where Nanda and Krishna would bathe every morning. And it was given the name Pavan Sarovar because it was a sarovar, or a lake, that was constructed by Vishakha's father, whose name was Pavan, or Pavan Gopa. That's how it got its name. But there's another reason why it's called Pavan Sarovar. And there's a nice pastime. It's not Radharani related pastime, but it's a Krishna pastime. One time Nanda Maharaj was hearing some katha about the benefits of taking bath at Prayag, at the confluence of the three sacred rivers, Ganges, Jamuna, and Saraswati. So hearing the glories of taking one's bath at such place, he decided, I want to make a pilgrimage to Prayag so I can take bath in the Triveni Sangam, the confluence of those three sacred rivers. So the next morning, I mean, Dinabandhu loves this story. I've heard it from him 50 times. He tells it so sweetly. Mai, that's Nanda, Krishna asking his mother, what are you doing? I'm making some prasadam. Mai, why so much prasadam? And it's a back and forth and back and forth. So she was making some prasadam for her husband for the travel that he was going to make to Prayag, to go to the Triveni Sangam. So he was asking, why is he going? And little boys will do things like this sometimes. Dinabandhu has fun narrating how he was nagging his mother, and his mother was putting up with it. And eventually he got the story out of her. He's going because he heard the glories of Prayag. He wants to go. And it'll be beneficial for all of us, because as he becomes purified this way, we will also benefit. He's thinking of your well-being and mine. So Krishna went to Nanda Maharaj, and he said, if you want to go to Prayag, you should wait till tomorrow. Because tomorrow is Akshaya Tritiya. And it's a very auspicious day. So if you begin your journey in Akshaya Tritiya, that will be best. So what happened is the next morning, when Nanda Maharaj went with Krishna to take his bath, he saw this majestic personality, a kingly feature person, come to take bath with many other subordinate kings following behind him, a whole retinue, and many, many ladies also. And Nanda had never seen these people before. So, why have you come here? He went and asked them, who are you and why have you come here? I'm Tirtharaj. I am the king of all holy Tirthas, and I've come here to Pavan Sarovar to take my sacred bath on Akshaya Tritiya. And all these queens, this is Ganga personified, and this one personified, and that one personified. And they've also come with me because so many pilgrims come to our place and deposit their sins, so we've come here to become purified at Pavan Sarovar. Oh. So Nanda Maharaj canceled this trip. Something like that. There's a longer Dinabandhu version, but it's something like that. On the far side, there's a temple. And I was looking for a photograph of the deities that are at this temple. If you know somebody that has a photo of the deities that are in this temple, please send me the photo. But it's a nice set of deities by the side of Pavan Sarovar. And this is a beloved place as well because of Krishna and Nanda Maharaj's pastimes for Rupa and Sanatana. So now, this is Radharani's mercy topic. Radharani was very merciful upon Shamananda Pandit. Who's Shamananda Pandit? Do you know who is Shamananda Pandit? Do you like to learn? Shamananda Pandit. You know who is Jiva Goswami? Jiva Goswami. He's one of the 6 Goswamis. He's very important amongst the 6 Goswamis. His elder uncles were Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami. And they had a third brother, Rupa and Sanatana. His name was Anupam. And Jiva Goswami was his son. So Rupa and Sanatana were the uncles, and next in line after Lord Chaitanya, and next in line after Lord Chaitanya and Rupa and Sanatana, Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami, as I mentioned, he wrote 400,000 verses, which is like mega, and unprecedented, I should say. And he continued the line of disciplic succession through three principal persons, one of whom was Shamananda. Listed in our disciplic succession, Srinivasacharya was a disciple of Gopal Bhatta. And so Srinivasacharya, who's another? Shamananda is another. Who's another? Narottam Das Thakur. Who is Narottam Das Thakur's guru? Lokanath. So Narottam and Srinivas were his first two disciples, students. He wrote, he heard from Rupa and Sanatana, he received it, he wrote commentary. Here's one of the things that Jiva did. He was such a scholar, Jiva, that Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami gave him their books to edit in case, there were some things that needed to be modified. He not only edited all their books, but he wrote commentaries on all the books that they wrote, along with editing their books. All of their books. All of their books. For example, Vaishnava Toshani is a 10th canto commentary by Sanatana Goswami. Jiva Goswami wrote a commentary to Vaishnava Toshani, which was Sanatana Goswami's commentary on 10th canto Bhagavatam. So Jiva Goswami had these three disciples, but one of them came last. And the one that came last was Shamananda Pandit. Shamananda Pandit is a celebrated person from Bengal. Here's a drawing, looks a little chubby in this drawing, and he had darkish complexion. There's another drawing of Shamananda Pandit. So here's Shamananda Pandit's history. Before he got to Vrindavan, studying under Jiva Goswami, the history goes back to the time that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was planning to take sannyas. Nimai Pandit, young householder, 24 years of age, decided to accept sannyas. The first one he told was Lord Nityananda, who just cried. He couldn't believe it. But that Nimai Pandit held him in his arms and persuaded him, I'm going to accept sannyas. He had a plan. It was purposeful as part of his Leela. And so one of the persons who they informed, because he was so confidential of a devotee, was Gauridas Pandit. Gauridas Pandit didn't live in Navadvip. He lived up the river Ganga at a place called Ambika Kalna. Ambika Kalna. So when Lord Chaitanya went, and Nityananda went to inform Gauridas of his plan to take sannyas, and because he was elder, seek his blessings. Gauridas had a very different relationship with Lord Chaitanya. He was had an intimate relationship where he would talk back to him. She told him, you can't do this. I'm elder, you're junior, you can't do this. You can't take sannyas. Because I won't be able to survive. And so many of your associates will not be able to survive if you leave us. So don't take sannyas. I don't give my permission. So Lord Chaitanya smiled, or Nimai Pandit, and said, here's what I will do. I will arrange for deities that are just in my likeness, and when you worship these deities, you will see me there. So he made this arrangement. These are the celebrated deities of Gauridas Pandit and Ambika Kalna. And after the deities were placed on the altar, Lord Chaitanya, Nimai Pandit, and Nityananda announced they're going to leave. And as they were walking out the courtyard towards the main gate, Gauridas came out and said, no, no, no. If they're not different than you, then you stay, and the deities can go. Lord Chaitanya smiled, and he said, okay. So he went and stood on the altar, and the deities got off the altar and started walking out the courtyard toward the front gate. And Gauridas said, no, 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 that's not good. They can stay and you can go. And went back and forth a number of times till he realized they're literally not different. So after some time, Lord Chaitanya, or Nimai Pandit, departed and took sannyas. So now he's no longer in the area geographically. After some time, Gauridas Pandit had a disciple, a very qualified disciple. Guess what he named him? Chaitanya Das. Nice name, Chaitanya Das. And Chaitanya Das was very qualified and very devoted. One time, when Gauridas, as attached as he was to his deities, he had to go out of town for some time. He gave the responsibility of his Gauritai deities to Chaitanya Das. And while Gauridas was out of town, Chaitanya Das got an inspiration. I'd like to have a celebration for the appearance day of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm Chaitanya Das. Let's have a Gaur Purnima festival. So he started making arrangements. And he invited people from all over the place to come for the big Ambika Kalna Gaura Purnima festival. And when Gauridas Pandit came back, he heard about this. He said, what have you done? You didn't ask me? You can't do this. But it's too late because it's already arranged. And so the festival, if you've been to Ambika Kalna, in the town square, there's a very, very large tree, and underneath this very, very old, large tree, the festival was being held. And the festival, Lord Chaitanya and Gaur Purnima in Bengal, big kirtan. And the kirtan was so uproarious that the deities of Gaur-Nitai wanted to join the kirtan. So they got off the altar and started heading for the kirtan, out the courtyard and through the main gate, and Gauridas started chasing them. Wait a minute. It's time for Rajbhog offering. Get back on the altar. You can go after the offering, but you have to... They said no, and they kept running out the front gate. He followed them with a stick, chasing his deities down the street, heading for the kirtan. And Lord Chaitanya, looking over his shoulders, entered into the heart of Chaitanya Das and disappeared. So he could join the festival that way. And after the festival, his name changed to Hriday Chaitanya. You've heard his name before? Hriday Chaitanya. Hriday Chaitanya. Hriday Chaitanya. And Hriday Chaitanya had one disciple. And Hriday Chaitanya's disciple was Dukhi Krishnadas. Krishnadas, but he was always very sad and feelings of separation from Krishna. Dukhi Krishna. Here's Hriday Chaitanya giving Diksha to Dukhi Krishna before the Ambika Kalna deities of Gaur-Nitai. And after some time, Hriday Chaitanya found his disciple Dukhi Krishna to be so qualified a student. He sent him to study under Jiva Goswami. So he's his Diksha disciple, taking Shiksha from Jiva Goswami. Here's a very old painting, kind of rudimentary, but There's Narottam and Srinivas, as already existing students, and there's Krishnadas, Dukhi Krishnadas, taking shelter under Jiva Goswami. There's another painting, taking shelter under Jiva Goswami, and now Jiva Goswami has 3 students. And those 3 become the next successors in the line of disciplic succession, principal acharyas in our disciplic line, instructed by Jiva Goswami. So now you know who Dukhi Krishna, but now we got to get the Shamananda part. Okay? Here's the Shamananda part. Dukhi Krishna was very humble, and he liked to serve. They go well together, by the way, being humble and liking to serve. So he requested Jiva Goswami, is there some humble service that I can do? So Jiva Goswami, being very, very expert, gave him some humble service. The humble service was, the Radha Damodar temple is in the Seva Kunj area. Some of you who have been to Vrindavan, this is a photograph of the remaining portion of Seva Kunj, what it looked like years and years and years ago. And the whole area was like this during the time of Jiva Goswami and the 6 Goswamis. So in some corner, not far from the Radha Damodar temple, was an area where Jiva Goswami said that this is a place where Radha and Krishna come every night and perform Rasa Leela. Now, how many times, those of you who've been to Vrindavan, you hear, this is the place where Radha and Krishna perform Rasa Leela, and it goes in one ear and out the other ear. Oh, isn't that nice? Then we take a photograph and go on to the next place. But that's not Dukhi Krishna Das. He took it very seriously. He was given a broom, and every evening, before he took rest, he went to that area and made it very clean. Because with the meditation, Radha and Krishna are going to come here and perform the rasa dance. Now, have you ever had a service where somebody says the glories of that service and you think it's nice, but you don't take it seriously? You ever had that experience? I'll give you mine. One of them. Once upon a time, I was a young man. And I decided to take a leave of absence from college, the long story before that, and jump in the pool, the Hare Krishna pool. And you'll experience what life in a Hare Krishna ashram was like. One of the places that I had visited when I was looking at graduate schools was in Boston, and I really liked the situation there. During that particular time, there was no BBT. Later it became the BBT, but at that time it was ISKCON Press. And ISKCON Press meant in a single family residential building, everybody that was involved in ISKCON Press lived in that place, along with all the temple devotees and the pujaris and the Sankirtan devotees and the this and that. It was packed, and it was very joyful. So I got my little Volkswagen Bug and drove all the way from the western side of New York State to Boston. That was my leave of absence journey. And it was on a Sunday. And I reached the temple after the program was over, hoping, like I was really hungry, that I could get some nice prasadam. Right? And somebody greeted me, because I had visited there once before. Oh, we need somebody to wash the pots. Can you wash the pots? Okay, wash the pots. And I didn't know, but they told me the next morning, after I had taken some prasadam late at night, we need a pot washer. Can you be the pot washer? And I was thinking, what? From med school to pot washer? I was a little puffed up. But they needed a pot washer, for Krishna, of course. And so I washed pots. And then I found out, what they do every day is all the brahmacharis and ISKCON Press, they load up in a van and they go out to do Harinam Sankirtan at Boston Common. And there I am at the pot sink, washing pots. You got to be surrendered, Prabhu, right? So I did it for a while. And then, because where the brahmachari ashram was, you went down a flight of stairs or walked right past the pot sink. And, I would get pats on the back, saying, "Oh, you're doing a nice job." Prabhupada said, when you clean the pots, you're cleansing your heart. You've heard that one before? So I, smart aleck, sarcastic college kid, I didn't say it, but I was thinking, oh yeah? Come join me. Come make your heart clean with me. I didn't say it. Some time passed. Oh, you're doing such a nice job. Prabhupada said, you should clean the pot so nicely you can see your reflection in the bottom of the pot. Have you heard that one? But then I surrendered. And I said, okay. And in those days, we couldn't buy new pots. It was used pots. And when you bought used pots, the bottom of the pot was thick, black. Every day, it was my mission. I was going to make the pots, the bottom, where the fire went, not where the food went. The bottom went. You could see reflection in the bottom of the pot. It took a month. At the end of the month, somebody tapped me on the shoulder. Said, guess what? We found another pot washer. Would you like to come on Sankirtan? And I had this profound realization. Krishna just wanted me to give up pride and take seriously the instructions of the spiritual master to make my heart clean and please Krishna as my real mission of life. It took a month, but sometimes it can take a lifetime. It was really nice. And for Dukhi Krishnadas, he didn't need the pot sink. He just needed, he had natural devotion. And so as he was cleaning for Radha and Krishna. And one fine evening, he saw, as you see in this painting, he saw an ankle ornament lying near the sitting place of Radha and Krishna. When he touched the ankle ornament, his body erupted in ecstasy. And he understood this isn't an ordinary ankle ornament. This is Shivram Raja's drawing of the ankle ornament. And here's another nice painting of the ankle ornament placed around Radharani's feet. So he decided, I'm going to keep this in a special place. So there's different versions of what happened. It's one of the versions I like is he buried it. And after some days, this is a painting by Sadaputta from one of his books to describe upper dimensional space, higher dimensional space. So on the left side, lower left side, one day, a very old lady came, leaning on a walking stick, saying, "Did you find an ankle ornament?" And he said, "Yes, I did. But I'd like to make sure I give it back to the person it actually belongs to. Can you tell me who sent you to pick this ankle ornament?" The old lady smiled. She transformed herself to Lalita, who you see on the right side. She smiled and said, "Yes, I will take you to her." So Dukhi Krishnadas was brought in his spiritual form, which he later came to know was Kanaka Manjari, and before Srimati Radharani. And before Srimati Radharani in the spiritual world, the ankle ornament was delivered, and Srimati Radharani placed the ankle ornament on the forehead of Kanaka Manjari and blessed her, saying, "This is your new name. And don't tell anybody that I brought you here, but you're very dear to me. And now you can go back and perform your nice service. And you will be known in that realm as Shamananda." So Radharani gave a new tilak, gave a new name, and off he goes back to the material realm as now known as Shamananda. Oh, she said, don't tell anybody. But he had to tell Jiva Goswami. So he told Jiva Goswami when he returned. Here's, different versions of the same painting. You see it, the letters across the bottom. Shamananda returns the ankle bell to Radharani. And there's getting her mark on the forehead. So when she went back, it was now Shamananda. He explained everything to Jiva Goswami, said this is what happened. And I was told by Radharani not to tell anybody, but I had to tell you. So Jiva Goswami said, you received the mercy of Srimati Radharani. How fortunate. So as time passed, Dukhi Krishna is no longer Dukhi Krishna or Krishna Das. He is Shamananda. And some disciples of Hridaya Chaitanya came all the way from Bengal to Vrindavan, and they met their godbrother, who's now known by a different name, and he has a different kind of tilak. And, a rumor started to spread. And then they went back and told their Jai Chaitanya. Looked like Jiva Goswami has given him reinitiation, given him a different name and a different tilak. And Hridaya Chaitanya, a great Vaishnav, was very disturbed. So he discussed with the other Mahants, it's called, the other great Vaishnavas, and all together in a big assembly, they came to Vrindavan to get to the bottom of this. You could say, confront Jiva Goswami. So they came to Vrindavan, they made a camp outside of Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami, innocently, went to where Hridaya Chaitanya was, very eminent personality. Lord Chaitanya had entered into his heart. He was a very celebrated personality. So he respected him and offered him, how can I be of some service? Welcome to Vrindavan. He said, you can be of some service. You can tell me, did you give Diksha? Did you change the name and tilak of my disciple? He said, no. He said, well, then how did it happen? He said, I think you're going to have to ask your disciple. Very good. I'll ask my disciple. He should come here and explain. So look at that assembly in the back. This is, again, Sadaputra's writing, or from his books. Big assembly, a lot of people wanting to know what the story is. So Dukhi Krishna, now Shamananda, is sitting before Hridaya Chaitanya, pictured on the right, saying, how did this happen? Did Jiva Goswami give you Diksha? No. Tell me how it happened. Can I give some time? Can you give me some time to give you a proper answer? He said, yes, I want a proper answer. So right in front of him, Shamananda went into a trance of meditation, and once again, you see above him, he, accepting the form of Kanaka Manjari, came again before Srimati Radharani explained the dilemma. They're blaming Jiva Goswami for something he didn't do. But I was told by you not to tell anybody, so what should I do? What should I do? Crying and crying. And Srimati Radharani said, no problem, go back, and here's what you should do. You should say to Hridaya Chaitanya, who is very dear to me also, as are you, if the tilak washes off, then you can say, it wasn't just in a dream. You can say it happened in a dream, and if it didn't happen in a dream, it'll wash off. And by the way, you see on the right side, she's giving a deity, Radharani is giving a deity to Kanaka Manjari or Shamananda to worship, which to this day is being worshipped in Vrindavan. We'll see some photos of that deity. So off he goes back to Vrindavan and comes into external consciousness. He was in samadhi for a bit and explains to Hridaya Chaitanya This happened in a dream. And if you want, you can try washing off the tilak. And if the tilak washes off, then you can take it that it didn't happen in a dream. I said, very good. And the tilak wouldn't wash off. So he accepted. Jiva Goswami didn't do something against Vaishnava etiquette, and you didn't do something against Vaishnava etiquette, and you received this in a dream. That night, Hridaya Chaitanya had a dream. Radharani appeared in a dream, in his dream, and said, I arranged this name, Shamananda, and your disciple is very dear to me, as are you. So you are most fortunate to have such a dear, beloved disciple who is dear to me. So please be kind upon him and hold no ill feelings. So Hridaya Chaitanya was happy. Shamananda was very happy. And all of this is the story of Radharani showing mercy to Shamananda. Now this is a few years ago. I don't know what it looks like today, but that little drawing is now a place commemorating where Shamananda or Dukhi Krishna found Radharani's ankle ornament in a place where they would have rasa dance. Radha and Krishna would have rasa dance. And the icing on the cake is, here's the deity of Shri Shri Lala Lali. And here's a close-up of Lala Lali, the deity that was given by Srimati Radharani to Shamananda to worship, which he worshipped for his life. And then the worship has continued till today. The deity is worshipped very nicely. So that's merciful Srimati Radharani. Well, yeah, merciful pastimes. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Let's see if there's some questions or discussion. You have something, that was quick. What's up? Do we have a portable microphone? You got to speak into the microphone.
So I actually I have a few questions. The first one is, when the boys were chasing the jackal, why did they do such things to it?
Boys will be boys. Let me ask you. Do you sometimes do things that your mother is scratching your head, wondering, why does he do this? And then if you were to answer, why do you do this? That's what you can say next time.
Okay.
Boys will be boys.
What day of the year is Sanatana Goswami's birthday?
What time of the year?
What day?
What day? You have to look it up in the Vaishnava calendar.
How did Radharani get the ingredients for the sweet rice?
Oh, she can produce anything. She doesn't need a closet or a storeroom or refrigerator or anything. She can produce anything.
How do you make the sweet rice?
What's that? You need a sweet rice teacher. And I bet your mom can teach you. If you really want to know how to make it, she can teach you. If she doesn't know, she knows how to find out how to make it.
How did Vishaka's father construct the lake?
How did what?
How did Vishaka's father construct the lake?
Oh, with a shovel.
Then where did the rain come from?
You have to ask him, I don't know.
And when?
Okay. Anything else?
Where is Prayag?
It's over on the eastern side, central eastern side of India, the confluence of those three rivers. But you get a map, don't ask me, you get a map and look at the map. Where the three rivers intersect, Prayag. Okay? You got a lot of questions.
Who is the oldest out of the 6 Goswamis?
Sanatana Goswami, that was easy.
Why did Gauridas Pandit take Ambika Kalna as his deities?
That was where his family lived. He just continued where his family lived. It was his ancestral home. That's a nice place. And he's a very dear devotee of Lord Chaitanya, so he can go anywhere, but it was his ancestral home.
And the last one. What is the date?
Suryadas Sarakale also was a great devotee. Suryadas Sarakale was the father of Lord Nityananda's two wives. Lord Nityananda married, right? You know the names of those wives? Who knows the names of those wives? Say it to him.
Janavi and Vasudha.
So Suryadas Sarakale was their father, and he lived in the same place. So it was like a nice place for Brahmins to live, that lived together and were very elevated Vaishnavas. It was a nice place. It's still a nice place, but it was especially nice then.
And then the last one.
Okay, last one.
What is the deity that Radharani gave to Shamananda?
Where? It's in Vrindavan town. The deity is in Vrindavan town in a small temple.
But what's it called?
Temple. Radha, Shri Lala Lali Mandir. Shri Lala Lala Lali Mandir.
That's all.
Okay, I'm off the hook.
Radha Rani was so great. Why did she worship the Surya Dev?
We're going to hear that tomorrow. But the short of it is, it was known by Radharani. Short of it is, there's a longer version. Short of it is, she understood that by worshipping Surya Dev, she would get her love for Krishna would be nourished. She understood like that. And that's why she went to Surya. There's other reasons, but that was the big reason. Personal reason. It was like a way to get away from her mother-in-law also, but it was a good rendezvous place. It still is, and even in even recent times, very secluded. In recent times, that deforestation behavior of some of the Brijbasis just chopped trees down like left and right, but it was quite secluded at that time, and even recent times. It's a very quiet, serene place. Perfect for Radha Krishna pastimes. Okay, anyone else? Up front?
Maharaj, so the three pastimes you talked about, is there any place we can read more detail?
Oh, yeah. You have to be careful because there are some places that you can read from that you really, it's a little distorted. So you have to be selective. But a really nice place for you to go is Bhakti Purushottam Swami's book. Srimati Radharani is the title of the book. Because he's very careful. I discussed with him about some of the details, and he described the procedure he followed to make sure it wasn't the distorted kind, it was the, good kind. And there's, just like as I did, there's different some from Padma Puran and some of it is from his book. But there's different sources. But you have to be very careful about source. So that's a good source. It's a good starting point. Has some nice illustrations. And you know you're in safe territory.
The Bhakti Purushottam Swami book, right?
Bhakti Purushottam Swami, Srimati Radharani is the title of the book. Okay. Over here in the front.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, how do we receive mercy of Srimati Radharani? Like getting special mercy of Radharani so that we can progress spiritually.
Take prasadam. And just like we were doing here, chanting her glories, and here's a very nice sequence if you, you'll get the mercy of Radharani by getting the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So let's go back. You get the mercy of Krishna if you get the mercy of Radharani. You get the mercy of Radharani if you get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. You get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya if you get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. You get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Then you get the mercy of Radharani. And how do you get the mercy of Lord Nityananda? You approach the Jagais and Madhais of Texas. And you get the mercy of Lord Nityananda, and that you get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. It's not only Texas. There's Jagais and Madhais all over the place. So Sankirtan, and represent the message of Lord Chaitanya to others as a service to Lord Chaitanya on behalf of Lord Nityananda in that consciousness. And then you get mercy. It's not just the behavior, it's the consciousness. It's like Dukhi Krishna doing what he did in the proper consciousness, so he got mercy. That's how you get Radharani's mercy. Some service is given to you and you take it up in that mood. This is meant for the pleasure of Srimati Radharani and the pleasure of those representatives. In Manashiksha, Raghunath Das says, by getting the mercy of Rupa and Sanatana and Swarup Damodar, you'll get the mercy of Radharani. Because those were principal persons who guided him. So the Goswamis, become familiar with the lives of the Goswamis, and something magical will happen. You'll find the mercy of Radharani is more in your consciousness than before. It's a doorway into Radharani's mercy. They are entryways into Radharani's mercy. And that will inspire also, because they're imbued with Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan mood, to extend Krishna Bhakti to the world. Although they primarily resided in Vrindavan. They didn't do traveling Sankirtan. But Jiva Goswami did. He engaged these three. Jiva Goswami engaged Srinivasacharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shamananda in traveling Sankirtan. He loaded up a bullock cart with their writings, handwritten copies, to travel throughout the land and distribute this knowledge to the world. You'll get the mercy of Radharani for sure. For sure.
Maharaj, what if on some level we are at Jagai Madhai?
What happens if what?
We are at some level, at the level of Jagai Madhai.
Level of what?
Level of Jagai Madhai, we need purification.
Level of what?
Jagai and Madhai.
Jagai Madhai.
Yeah, and we need purification.
So you speak to the devotees that are around you and they'll pick you up. Because they're merciful. On behalf of Radharani, right? Because she's merciful. Behind you, you have something. Yes. 10 after 8.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much for the really mesmerizing katha. Maharaj, you spoke about the 8th verse of Nectar of Instruction and in a paragraph in the purport there which talks about the 5 stages of
meditation.
Yeah.
You looked that up while we were sitting here?
Just briefly. Because we
it's
were
very high.
Very high.
Very high.
We were trying to discuss this last Saturday as part of our discussion on this. It was very high.
Very high.
So, even, I guess, theoretically, I was able to, understand very theoretically, very surface level, the other ones. But one of them is called Varan Dasha. The second one, Sri Prabhupada says, the stage of acceptance.
Yes.
So I was just wondering if you could say anything about the stage of acceptance.
Yeah, this is a very elevated topic, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But the way that Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes, this is from Bhakti Siddhanta, it's taken from Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and And Bhaktivinoda Thakur expands a little bit where the acceptance part is interrupted. It's right from that paragraph,
Yes,
right?
it is.
It's interrupted, and it's with, even the interrupted is with effort. But then effort in this stage is intermittent, anishtita, or unsteady effort. It's not natural yet, but it's with effort. And when striving to absorb one's mind, that's kind of like us a little bit. Okay. No. You had your quota. No. No. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Maharaj. As you were saying about your pot washing, I was just thinking, when a service comes, talking for myself, it is more like a duty bound for me.
Yes.
Like I have to do it, I have to do it. It's not that I love to do it, it's like more like I have to do it.
Yes.
How do I make it love bound from duty bound, Maharaj?
Make your heart pure.
And how do I do that?
You keep doing the duty bound.
Sorry, Maharaj.
You continue in the duty bound because it works. Here's another way of saying the same thing. What's natural is spontaneous, or what's spontaneous is natural. Right now, we're in the cupboard, unclean. So you make the thing clean, the heart. And then what's natural, innately within, comes out. It's not an automatic, just keep doing the duty bound, just keep doing the duty bound, just keep doing the duty bound, and voila, the jack comes out of the box, and you become spontaneous. It's not quite like that. But as the heart becomes a little more clean, and a little more clean, a little more clean, then Krishna will see, Krishna will send you messages and messengers carrying messages where it's more on the spontaneous direction, and your heart is now a little more clean, you can connect with it. And so it's a gradual transition through Sangha of those that are more in the spontaneous stage, because you're now more eligible, because your heart's a little more clean. So what do you do before then? You keep doing dutiful. Your question is an essential part of bhakti life. And it's therefore, because it's an essential part of bhakti life, there's a lot written by our acharyas. But the experience is different than just the writing about it, but just describing what the trajectory looks like, because yours was a how-to question. So how to go from duty-bound to spontaneous is your question. It's purification that comes from doing duty, because it works. And you'll feel, go the other direction, stop doing your duty. What happens? Dirty. Keep doing your duty. You feel it's more clean, and more clean, and more clean, and more clean, and more clean. And then Krishna sends association that will prompt you to a more spontaneous style or modality of service. And you still do the external, do the duty, and then, but internally, and with a different purpose in your heart and in your mind and your being. So it's the unfolding of what's natural. It's like a little seed becoming a sprout, becoming the next stage, next stage. It's not mechanical. It's not a cause and effect. But it happens by Krishna's arrangement. He'll send the association so you can move to the next stage when you're clean enough and ready enough to move to the next stage while you continue with the dutiful. You don't drop the dutiful. You got the microphone. You want to say something more. I can tell.
Yes, Maharaj. So I was just thinking, and you were saying, it is along with doing the duty, it's also kind of a praying that may I...
Of course, but that's the internal part. But isn't it true that one can pray in a mechanical way. And isn't it true that one can be moving from the mechanical to the heartfelt? And then is it true that one can, in elevated souls, it's only heartfelt? So where we are in the trajectory of all of that is subjective. And sometimes it's going to be more and sometimes it's going to be less. And it's up and down. Unsteady bhakti is up and down. The sine curve. So, but praying can also be mechanical is my response. But it's okay, pray. With the intention that let my heart become free from the coverings, and let this prayer be something that I'm actually feeling. It's me. It goes inside. It's bhakti. It's bhakti life. Next.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, let's do something else in the room and then the online. Okay, do what you want to do.
The first question is from Keshava Madhava Das Prabhu. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, what did Radharani see in the jackal? What made the jackal qualified to receive her causeless mercy?
Nothing the jackal did made the jackal qualified to receive causeless mercy. Causeless mercy doesn't have a cause. She was merciful because she's merciful. The jackal was qualified, he just happened to be the right place at the right time to get her mercy. There's no cause effect. Mercy is not like that. Radharani's mercy is not like that. Next.
Second question from Sangeeta Dutiya Mataji. Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Are Gaudiyas the only Vaishnavas who worship Srimati Radharani?
No. Others? Yes. Okay. He's got the magic microphone that seems to know what's online. You got something else online?
Yes, ma'am. From Facebook.
Okay. Here we go. And I think this is going to be our last one. Is anybody like with burning something here in the room? Okay, I see one burning. Okay.
This is...
Okay. Gopal, you're last. But not least. You're last. Go ahead.
This is from Archana Vaidya Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, trying to understand how to see Guru's mercy in pastime of Shamananda Pandit, since it was more focused on his quality of humility. Thank you.
Since it was more focused on his humility. Do you understand the question? I don't understand the question. Do you understand the question? Restate the question.
Saying that, aside from just his humility,
Whose humility?
Shamananda Pandit's,
Aside from Shamananda Pandit's humility,
did his Guru's mercy play a role in his receiving the mercy of Radharani?
was Hridaya Chaitanya's mercy invoked in addition to his own humility as a prompt for Radharani giving mercy to Dukhi Krishna to become Shamananda? Is that the question? Wow. Congratulations. Well, we Vaishnavas don't separate good fortune that comes from the mercy of Guru. And now to understand how does that happen, it's not easy to understand sometimes, but in principle at least, mercy comes to us through the medium of the mercy of Guru, and the manifestations of the mercy of Guru can be, not easy to understand, puzzling. But the principle is principle. So Dukhi Krishna got Hridaya Chaitanya's mercy, not just a mantra, but he got his mercy. And the mercy included his going to study under Jiva Goswami, and his going to study under Jiva Goswami had another dimension where Jiva Goswami gave him the service of serving in a place where Radha and Krishna performed Rasa Leela, and that led to the ankle ornament. The source of it is the mercy of Guru. And then there's many other multiple personalities involved in that network. Srila Prabhupada ki? Oh, you didn't get to ask your burning question. And let's do your question, because Gopal's going to be angry at me if I don't let him ask his question. Yeah, Gopal, you're last. You're last but not least.
So thank you, Maharaj. Your presence here is extremely appreciated. Thank you very much for coming. Hare Krishna. So we've not had a sannyasi come to this area in a really long time, so we really appreciate you coming here. Yeah.
Well, thanks to pandemic, I'm a break in the.
So Maharaj, just to expand the question that this Mataji asked here, when we look at this spontaneous, say, japa, for example, I have to ask you a question about japa. You are one of the exponents in this area. So when we talk about japa as our main way of devotional service,
yes,
and then we talk about unmotivated, uninterrupted japa, I don't see myself ever being able to get there. Right? So the spontaneity of chanting japa, I don't see myself ever getting there. Is that an issue that I should resolve, or I should just continue to?
Yes.
And how, Maharaj?
Mercy, and mercy follows the desire, and the desire is you may not feel capable, which is quite fine. I don't feel capable either, but you combine the aspiration. Even I'm not. This is an essential teaching of Rupa Goswami. Ashabandha, you're familiar with it from Nectar Devotion. Although I'm not qualified, and etc., you're most merciful, and please kindly bestow. So if you don't have that aspiration, it won't happen. You don't have the qualification, that's given. What about the aspiration despite disqualification? That's needed. It's wanted, and it's needed. And when the aspiration comes, so then it comes back to her question about dutiful, then, going beyond dutiful. How do you get to this, the aspiration for spontaneous? There's one of the Japa retreats topics was say yes to the holy name. And the yes is an acronym for yearning. This is the Ashabandha thing. Then enthusiasm, and then spontaneous. YES. Say yes to the holy name. And that was the theme of a Japa retreat. We're going to do a rerun on that theme in Phoenix. So you come on over to Phoenix and join us, and we'll
Thank you, Maharaj.
Or hear the recordings, because that's the theme.
Will do.
Specific to the holy name. Okay, Gopal.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Is it a good one?
So I read somewhere that if you sing Radha Kripakadaksha on a full moon, then Radha Rani may appear in front of you. And if you're really lucky, then Krishna and Radha Rani will appear in front of you. Is this true?
I never heard that one. I never heard that one.
No answer?
Huh?
So what's the answer?
That was what?
What's the answer?
I don't know the answer because I never heard it before. I don't know what books you're reading. Be careful. Read the right books.
I actually got this from the Radha Kripakadaksha song. I read the translations.
I couldn't follow what you're saying. I'm sorry. I'm striking out. You're a good pitcher, and I'm striking out every time you ask a question. I don't know anything about this reference you're making, and I don't like to make comments on things I don't know anything about. Srila Prabhupada ki? Before coming here, I was in Chicago suburbs. You never heard of a place called Naperville. Here's from their deities. Mahaprasadam. Cookies.